Welcome back to Prosperity by Design. Today's episode is going to be the last episode of 2023, and this is going to be a recap of 2023. I'm going to go through my year, and then after I go through my year, I'm going to outline some questions that you can also ask yourself in terms of getting yourself set up for 2024, reviewing your own 2023, recapping the events that happened in your life and in your circumstances, and also going into 2024, setting yourself up with the right mindset, the right goals, the right, if you're looking to make more sales, like the right sales numbers, whatever it might be. And so we're going to dive into that today. So 2023, wow. In the beginning of the year, I remember in January, I was sitting in my room and I was holding Penelope. I must have been feeding her, or, she was getting ready to go to sleep or something. And I remember being on my phone and I was still stuck in the same mindset that I had from 2020, 2021, and 2022, where I thought to myself, this person is going to change my business. This person is going to be what really changes the game for me. I'm totally going to invest in this person. And it must have been like the second week of January, because I remember the first week of January, I was like, no, I'm running my business the way that I want this year. I'm going to invest in the things that I want to invest in. One of the things that I had been itching to invest in for a really long time was my own personal branding. And I did invest in my personal branding this year. Another thing that I really wanted to invest in for a really long time was getting myself a website. So I did get myself a website this year, and I did get my personal branding done this year. And I'm definitely really happy that I did those two things, because those were things for me. Those were things that I was like, I want to do this. Okay. And then I remember it was like the second week of January, I was sitting in my room and I was like, I'm going to hire this person because they're going to change my business. They're going to help me get to where I want to go. They're going to help me bring in all this money. They're going to help me do this. And so I worked with this person for quite a while, actually longer than the terms that she had laid out in her contract. And she is a very good coach. She is a very good person. She even offered to continue coaching for longer without charging me any more money. And I told her I wanted to think about it. And the reason why I wanted to think about it was because I really wanted to, by the time we finished coaching, which was, we started in January, we actually finished, I want to say sometime in May. By the time that May hit, I was like, I don't want to waste anybody's time anymore. I want to do this on my own. I want to be able to do this consistently. I want to be able to pick myself up and kind of what do you mean? I don't know, what's the word? Dust myself off and move on and not find myself in these scenarios anymore. And so in May, I was like, I really appreciate that you're willing to do this and that you're willing to do it at no cost, but I really don't want to do that. And, she offered me a membership, and I joined her membership, and it was free. She offered me a free coupon for 3 months. I joined her membership for the 3 months, and I did go through some of the modules, but I really wasn't as present as I would have hoped for myself. And the thing that I really found very present from that second week of January until probably July was that I was still stuck in this lack mindset. Even though I was really making quite a bit of headway on paying off my debt and getting myself into a better position financially, my mindset really wasn't, in the beginning of this year, it wasn't where it is now. And I want to say probably sometime between August and October, it could have very easily been October 5th when my daughter had her febrile seizure. And there was a switch that just went off in my head. And so before I even get there, I still want to, go through a majority of the year and do a recap. And so I was going through this coaching and I was really pushing myself to show up every day on TikTok, every day on Instagram. And when I have to push myself, it's never going to work. Something that I had mentioned a while ago to one of my business friends, Mariana, was that if I have to force it, it's never going to work. Like, you shouldn't have to force anything. And I was still finding myself in this position of forcing something. And so it really wasn't working for the first half of the year. And in the middle of the year, I wound up finding another person who I was like, maybe they're going to help me. And I was a part of their coaching for 1 month out of the 6 months that I joined. And after the first month, I was like, no, I'm leaving, because it wasn't what I was needing. That wasn't what I was needing. And it wasn't anything against her. It wasn't anything against, anybody this year. It just, none of, the investments that I have made up until this point were not things that I actually needed. They weren't skills that I needed. They weren't, people who were working behind the scenes in my business. They weren't things that I actually truly needed to help me get onto this road to success. Okay. So anyways, January, we went to the Bahamas. Everything was great. And then February came along. I was starting to get myself together for coaching that was going to start up in March. March coaching started, and when coaching started, I wound up pulling back a lot from my online stuff. And it's simply just due to the fact that when I am going into a coaching season, which in the spring it's March through May, and in the fall it's the last week of August through the 2 weeks into November. So when I go into a coaching season, I'm working 16 hours a day. I'm on the road by 7 o'clock, and I don't get home until maybe not 16 hours, maybe 13 hours. I'm on the road at 7 o'clock, and I don't get home until 7 o'clock. That's 12, but you understand what I mean. And so I was working these really long days, and it really takes away a lot of time from, number one, my daughter. And it also takes a lot of time from me being able to be present and create content. And so that happened March, April, May of this spring. And in June, I had a nice reprieve, which was great. But then, things started back up for coaching the last week of August. And I started to notice a little bit of a resistance towards going back into coaching, simply because I didn't really want to continue spending all of that time away from Penelope. And what wound up happening was she had a seizure on October 5th of this year. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I walked up to the vice president and I was like, things are gonna change. Things are gonna change. And she had nothing. She was like, oh, well, I remember when I was doing this. I was like, I don't think you understand. Things are going to change. And to this day, I still think that they believe that I'm going to be there and I'm going to wait on them hand and foot. And that's not the case. And so I saw a lot of growth in myself over the course of this year, in that I started to flip the switch into a mindset that was going to carry me forward. And honestly, having been in this space for so long, yeah, I am burnt out, but I really could care fucking less, because if I don't get to the point that I am looking to get, then it's going to cost me my family. It's going to cost me way more than if I don't put in the time and make the content and do the thing and talk about the sales. So, or even talk about my offers. So it doesn't matter to me anymore. I no longer care about all of these stupid little things. I no longer care about one of the things that was bothering me for the last 2 years. Yes, 2 years plus now. was that the one coach who I had a falling out with was going to basically like ruin my reputation, and I would never have a place online. Like I would never be able to have my own community because she would always find somebody, or she would do whatever and like slander me and ruin my reputation. I honestly don't care. People are going to know what my reputation is, and people are going to know how I treat them by the way that I treat them, because I'm a good person and because I actually care, and I want my customers and my clients to get a result, and I want them to do well. And my customers and my clients are going to know that. They're going to know that I go the extra mile. They're going to know that I over deliver, and they're going to know that I'm not going to manipulate them like this other person would. And my customers and my clients will know that because of what I do for them. And they do know that. And the thing that I no longer care about are fucking keyboard warriors who are just trolls because they have nothing better to do in their life. I don't care. And I don't care that it's slimy or sleazy or whatever to talk about what it is that you have to offer people, because it's not. It's not sleazy. If you can help people and if you can offer them a solution to the problem that they're having, then it's going to help them. The thing that's sleazy is using scarcity marketing, using urgency marketing. That's fucking sleazy. Okay? I'm not going to use lack mindset marketing. I'm not going to use lack or pain points in my marketing anymore, because that's fucking sleazy. I am going to empower in my marketing, because when you empower somebody, you light a fire in them, and they are already willing and they are already able to do what it is that they want to do, and they're like looking for the guidance. And so it makes sense that they would sign up or pay for your product or sign up for your services. So I no longer care about pain point marketing. I no longer care about sleazy fucking sales, because the only thing about sleazy sales is pain point marketing, period. That's it. So I've seen a lot of growth in myself, and I think that it was triggered a lot by what happened in October, but sometimes it takes something like that to start these kinds of chain reactions. And it's kind of like, part of me thinks that it's like really awful that it took something that intense and serious to get to this point. But it's different for everybody, right? Like, I've been in so much financial debt that it's no longer really as much of a motivator anymore. Whereas something like that, to a person who I love, that's a huge motivator, and it'll motivate me until the end of time. And there have been points in time where Penelope has been sick between October 5th and now. And I have been adamant about making sure she gets her temperature checked. Like, I will carry around the thermometer with me, and I'll check her every 30 minutes. Like, it's a little over the top, but at the same time, she's never going to get like that ever again. I'm taking the time, and I'm taking the actions necessary to get her the medications that she needs, or to get her the attention that she needs, so that that doesn't happen again. And that, I think, was just a bigger, like, more efficient switch than something like getting in more debt, because getting in more debt would have just been the same cycle again. And I've already made, like I had said earlier, I've made a significant amount of progress this year on paying down my credit card debt. I actually have about $8,000 left in credit card debt to pay off, and then I have a little bit more because I took a personal loan to lower my interest rates. I have probably about $17,000 on the personal loan left. So altogether, that's like 25, and then I have the hospital bills. But compared to the beginning of this year, I've paid about maybe a little less than $30,000 off. I haven't seen the total in a couple of days because I have been back and forth between work and creating a shitload of content, which is a good thing. But I definitely paid off at least 2 credit cards, maybe 3 this year in their entirety. And I am excited because I have another 2 that are going to be paid off completely coming up. And I was able to do a lot. I was able to reconsolidate, and I was able to get better interest rates, and I was able to move a lot of the debt from one card to these 0% offers. And the one card that I had was like a $12,000 balance, and it was 30% interest. It was insane. Like, it was a hole that I wouldn't have got it out of unless I was 65. Like, they have the projections on your credit card statement, and it was like, you're not going to pay this off until you're 65. I was like, fuck. So when I had the opportunities come up to do a lot of that reconsolidating and to get that personal loan, I was like, I'm going to take it because it's 17% less on my interest rate than what it was before. So I made a lot of headway on paying off my debt, and I'm really proud and I'm very happy of all of the things that happened this year. And a lot of people would look at 2023 and be like, oh, well, you know, my daughter had a seizure, or I hated working 12-hour days from the spring season and then the fall season. But honestly, I really could care less about those things. I really am super proud of myself for taking the steps and the actions necessary to be able to get me to where I am today. Because today I'm a much different person than I was in the beginning of this year. And I know that going into 2024, it's only going to get better. So I'm really excited to see what comes up in 2024. And, so I want to kind of just like share with you the way that I kind of reviewed and like the questions that I asked myself when I went through 2023. And basically I asked myself, how did I change? Did I change for the better? And the way that I asked the question is through a specific lens. Did I change it for the better? Did I change myself for the better? And my answer to it was yes. I think I did change for the better. Or what did change for the better? You can even take yourself out of it, take your ego out of it. What changed for the better? And then when you go through the list of what changed for the better, you're looking at it and it's almost like you are intentionally focusing on the good, positive things that happened, and you're going to see in a good light what it was that happened in this year. And oftentimes, really, it just comes down to that. It just comes down to the lens that you're looking through your year. And if you're looking through your year through a good lens, then you're going to be able to see the progress that you made, instead of just saying, well, what happened this year? Don't fall into the trap of, well, what happened this year? I mean, you could ask the question, what happened this year? But you can also ask the question, what prospered this year? And if I were to ask myself that question, which it was another question that I did end up asking myself at one point, I was like, I made a lot of headway in terms of starting a podcast. Like, I've wanted to start a podcast for years. And in this podcast, I have recorded and published 37 episodes. That's a lot. I've never published that many episodes on any podcast that I've ever had in the past. That's a lot of progress. And that's awesome. Even if there's only one other person listening, that is great, because I know that there is someone out there who is listening, who is going to take something away from what it is that I'm sharing, from the guests that I'm having on my podcast, and they're going to build and grow off of it. And I know that there's one person who is listening and tuning in, and who was even a guest on my podcast, and she was inspired to record 2 podcasts because of the questions that I asked her. Like, that's huge, because then she shares that with her audience, and her audience is like, wow, I wonder who the hell this person is. It me. Girl, it me. So, like, that's huge. That's a lot of progress. That's a lot of positive, intentional growth to be had and to have made. So, like, just consider the lens that you're asking yourself. And when you go to ask yourself questions, maybe reword the question just a little bit so that you're asking with that positive intention, and you're asking with that specific intentional, like, I am going to get a good answer out of this, instead of just asking the question to ask the question. It's almost like when people talk about posting content. Don't post content just to post content. Like, post content with an intention. Because when you post intentionally, then things are going to go a hell of a lot better than if you just post to post. So that is like the number one. If you were to take anything away from how to recap your 2023, what I would definitely recommend for you to take away with you going into the recap of your 2023. Now, moving forward into 2024, my intention is to continue building and to continue growing and to continue expanding. And so I've already made one particular investment. I actually made it at the end of November, and I made this investment specifically because I have been wanting to write a book for the longest time, and I really don't know where to start. That's really the hardest part, and I want to be able to have my story put out there. So I know that there's a lot of like mini stories that I can capture and put into this book. So that's what I intentionally started doing. And in addition to writing the book, the program is going to help become, I would basically get certified in becoming an NLP practitioner, which is another thing that I think is really powerful, because something that I've noticed going through my accounting class is how minimal talk there is around finances. There's no empowering like conversation about finances. And so I've kind of been finding myself starting to get pulled in this direction to create and to put out this solution towards financial empowerment. And a lot of people would say that, oh, well, you know, that's like what so-and-so talks about with money mindset. No, I don't think it's money mindset. Maybe partially it's money mindset, but I think a majority of it is also the conversations that you're having with other people. It's really difficult to navigate conversations with other people if they also have a negative money mindset. You can work on your money mindset day in and day out, 24/7, 365. But if you don't know how to navigate those conversations, let's just say it's with your significant other, if you don't know how to navigate those conversations because their money mindset is shit, then you're never going to see true progress, because you're still going to be surrounded by those 5 people who are going to still influence your like effect. Like they're going to still influence what happens in your world. So I'm finding myself being pulled and kind of steered more in that direction, just because I am really enjoying my accounting class. I am signed up in the spring for accounting 2. And I'm also seeing a lot of success with myself in my finances. And it's mostly because I am speaking just like that. I am successful with my finances. I've invested, I want to say $5,000 this year, in addition to paying off like just shy of 30 grand in debt. Like, I've been able to kill 2 birds with one stone. Granted, it's $5,000. It's not like it's $30,000, but still, there are a lot of people who wouldn't take that $5,000 and invest it into, I've invested it into like Penelope's 529, my 401k, my Roth IRA, and I also started a Roth IRA for Penelope. So like there wouldn't be people who put it into their retirement and into educational funds. They would just invest it in a way that's for their business, right? Like, and I'm doing air quotes when I say for their business. I mean, I'm actually investing in the stock market and I'm seeing a huge return. My retirement account was at $2,100 in the beginning of this year, and now my retirement account is at $3,500. Like, it's insane how much compounding of growth can happen in a year if you actually allow for it to happen and put the money there. So that's like another really big thing that happened this year. And the reason why I'm making this progress is because I'm speaking about it in a way that is positive, and I'm talking and I'm literally wiring my subconscious mind to be like, I am good with money, because I am good with money, because my actions are showing that I'm good with money, and my decisions are showing and proving that I'm good with money. And now it's more of a matter of how do we bring that consciousness, those decisions, those actions and behaviors to the table when you're having a conversation with others, because it's a huge problem. People always like to say it's your money mindset. And yes, absolutely, you have responsibility for your money mindset, but you also have to be able to navigate these conversations as well, because they're going to come up. It's inevitable. And yes, like, you are doing your part by taking responsibility for adjusting and enhancing your money mindset. Granted, the other person might not be, and they may never change. But if you don't go into that conversation equipped with the right tools and strategies to be able to show them, this is the scenario and this is what I suggest, and if this is how you're going to feel, then you can go do that, and this is how I'm going to talk about it, and this is how things are going to progress, then you're never going to find yourself managing those conversations well. And I feel like a lot of people avoid conversations about money because they are ashamed of it or embarrassed by it, or maybe they're like, this is too personal. And I just remember, this just takes me back to the time when I was a teaching assistant in college for a sex ed class. And the thing is if you don't talk about it, then it's never going to be accepted. And this taboo, like, whatever happened in society to create taboo mindsets and taboo topics have really done those topics a really big disservice. Because even just thinking about what happened when I was a teaching assistant for that sex ed class, there's so many people who have STDs or have diseases because they didn't learn, or who ended up pregnant and they didn't want to have a kid, or, you know, whatever happened. And it's because they didn't talk about how sex works. They didn't talk about the positives, they didn't talk about the negatives, they didn't talk about the things associated with it. And like, open conversation is always going to be the best thing. Open communication is always going to be the best thing at the end of the day. And I think that really has to come to the topic of finance and money, because everybody, it's like they take it so personally. And the thing is that it's just a number. It's nothing about who you are as a person. It's just a number. And it's showing and reflecting decisions that you've made. And that doesn't mean that you're the same person that you were in the past, that you are who you are now. So it's just something I've been finding myself very passionate about over the course of this year, and I've been like tweaking and refining it. And so the investment that I did decide to make this year was to write the book that I really have been itching to write for such a long time now, and to also become an NLP practitioner, and to bring that with me into what I'm going to be doing in the future, probably regarding money. So all of that to say, 2023, I think, was a really good year, and I'm really looking forward to 2024. And I do have some goals set out for myself. And the one thing that I really sat down and did was I took my products. So if you're looking to make more sales in 2024, which I am definitely looking to do, to build my online business so that I can step away from coaching, and that I can maybe take my full-time gig and bring it down to part-time, or maybe get rid of it altogether. But the idea is that I took the products that I have, and I'm not going to change the products. I'm not going to change my strategies. I'm not going to go from, like, I don't know, story sales to, I don't know, gardening, like completely left field, like completely tangential. There's no shiny object syndrome in the cards for this year. There is going to be a whole year dedicated to this topic, and to the growth in this topic, to the building of my reputation around this topic. And I just took the products that I have available currently, my story selling starter kit and my digital product handbook, and I just worked backwards. I was like, I want to make $300,000 this year. I've been wanting to make $300,000 since 2020. I basically just ran the numbers. I was like, if I want to make $300,000, how many story selling starter kits do I have to sell? And how many digital product handbooks do I have to sell? And I found it by the month at first. I took $300,000. I divided it by the amount of money that it costs for the digital product handbook. And then I was like, okay, so it leads to this many handbooks. And I was like, okay, divide that by 12. And then I found out how many sales I have to make per month. And then I divided that by 30, because it's an average between the months that are like 30, 31, and 28. And I was like, okay, I have to sell this many a day. So I literally just took the time to work backwards from the 300,000 and to turn that into units instead of keep it as dollars, because if you turn it into units sold, then it gives you an idea of how many units you have to sell throughout the year. So that's like the best way for me to wrap my mind around it, mostly because a lot of the time people are going to try and offer different things, and I am so done with bouncing between group programs or workshops or master classes or workbooks or whatever. This is what I sell. This is what I sell right now. I'm not selling anything else right now. I might be selling new stuff in the future, but for right now, the biggest, most important thing is the story selling starter kit, because that's going to come with a live training in January and a Q&A session in January. And, the digital products handbook, that is going to be a great place for you to start, for you to create a digital product if you have not already created a digital product before. Mostly the reason why I created that digital product handbook is because I have had so much success with selling a $2 digital download in the past, not sex. That is, I just realized that was what happened when I tried to say words before. So yes, those are the two things that I'm sticking with. And, I have thought of a third product, and I am excited to talk about it, especially because it has to do with money. And it just comes down to the fact that I haven't developed it yet. I have the idea. It's still there. It's more of a matter of taking the time to flesh it out and develop it and to create it. And the thing is you're never going to know what people are going to respond to until they start to ask questions of hey, how do you do this? Or hey, how do you do that? Or whatever. So I don't want to go right into creating this third offer if I don't know that people are going to buy it. So I'm going to hold off on creating a third offer until probably I get a really good handle on how the story selling starter kit is going to go and how the digital product handbook is going to go. And I've even had an idea of downgrading the digital product handbook from being, I think it's $27 to just being completely free. It's 63 pages, and I poured in a lot of time and a lot of effort. It only took me a day and a half to write, but it took me a lot longer to brand it. But if I offer that as the freebie, then I stand to collect more of a community and be hey, grab the story selling starter kit. And I think that might be a good strategy, but I'm going to wait until 2024. For right now, I have still seen emails come in for my current freebie, and I am talking about my offers in my email list, etc., etc. All those things are pretty unnecessary to this podcast, but it doesn't really matter. You're picking up what I'm putting down. Stay with one thing consistently this year in 2024. So, just as a parting thought, you decide when your year starts. You decide how your year unfolds, and you decide all of that when you wake up in the morning. Not on January 1st, not on February 1st, not on December 31st. Every day that you wake up in the morning, you decide that. Every day of 2024, you decide that. So how are you going to decide to go about 2024 today? Think about that. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. If you have 30 seconds to leave a review, I'd appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.